The biggest question that's coming out of 2021 for aspiring indie comic book writers is, do you go corporate or do you go indie? Let's find out in today's video. Hello everyone, welcome to another edition of Talking Comics with your host with the most to boast, Julius Freeman. So this video is to discuss the pros and cons of going corporate or going indie. In this case, in this instance, for this video, this is for the writer who has to pay out of pocket or has to pay artists, inkers, colorists, and letterers to produce the vision they have in their head that they write onto paper in a script form or in a scripted format. So this is the video for them. This applies to artists as well. So if you want to watch and listen, that's okay with me. So let's take a look at the pros and cons for corporate comics. Now, when I mean corporate comics, I'm talking about Marvel and DC, or anything that involves dealing with IP that isn't yours, intellectual property, for those of you who don't know what IP means. What is the pros to working for a corporate comic book company like Marvel or DC? Well, one of them is prestige. In the eyes of the reader, when you work for Marvel or DC or any published, corporate company for that matter, you are the elite of the elite. I know that doesn't mean much these days, but it still holds weight. Because the majority of books that comic book stores sell are Marvel and DC. So you are, like I said, top of the mountain. The second pro is editorial aid. Editorial aid. Now, what do I mean by editorial aid? That means that you write a script. And let's just say you write it, you think it's good. But if you have a good editor working with you, then more than likely that editor is going to enhance the script. So I consider that a pro. I know a lot of writers don't consider that a pro, but a lot of the time two minds are better than one, because the editor is there to help you succeed. Well, they're supposed to be there to help you succeed anyway, not to hold you down. They're supposed to be there for the same reason as you, selling books. The next pro is growth by peers. Now, what do I mean by that? It means that you could talk to other writers and you could bounce off ideas off other writers, depending on how collaborative or how open they are in terms of camaraderie, that kind of thing. At least that's what I hope. Your value as a writer, like I said, goes up. So, if your name is on the Marvel or DC comic, your value goes up. It goes all the way up. Especially if you are a successful writer for a character, a Spider-Man, X-Men, or Batman, or Superman, whatever the case may be. In the eyes of the industry insiders, the people who work within the industry will look at your stock as, a high valued stock, and they would like to hire you to work for their company. Jeff Johns and Gary Frank, when they jumped ship to Image, that was huge news. That was Image Comic got a great steal by convincing Jeff Johns and Gary Frank to jump ship to Image Comics. And now that comic book is going to sell like hotcakes when it comes out. I guarantee it, because of the name Jeff Johns and Gary Frank. Again, value. Your value goes up. Moving on. You get royalty checks if you create a new character. So if you, let's just say you write for Doctor Strange and you create a new villain, right? And that villain becomes like a very popular villain that everyone talks about. Everyone dresses up for the cons. Everyone is, singing your praises about this villain, and it ends up in the movie. Guess what? You're going to get a royalty check for that character. You don't own the character, but you get the royalty check, which is nice. I mean, why else are we in this business for but to make money, right? So that's a pro for working for a corporate comic book company. Another pro is the marketing machine is outside your sphere. meaning you don't have to market as much as you would have to or you would need to, because those companies have their own marketing teams. I don't know about now. I don't know about these days now, because they're slashing all these jobs off. So those days might end soon. But that was one pro for working in a corporate comic book publisher, is that you had a marketing team behind you and making sure that your books got sold to comic book stores. Not only comic book stores, but bookstores, Barnes and Nobles, and other bookstores throughout the country and perhaps throughout the world. And lastly, you don't have to worry about budget. All you have to worry about is being on time, is delivering the script on time, and you get paid for delivering the script. So that's another pro too. You get paid for writing the script per page. So you don't have to worry about hiring an artist. You don't have to worry about marketing. You don't have to worry about the budget. You could just write the script however way you like, and it's taken care of because the company is paying for everything. They're paying for your services as well as an independent contractor, a work for hire, as it's known. So that's the pros of working for a corporate comic book company, which is a good thing. But considering that now with COVID and everything, those days are soon to end. So that's a big con now. Hopefully, when things get better and things start opening up again, and people are getting more comfortable going outside, not wearing face masks because of the therapeutics and because of the vaccines that are being introduced. Hopefully it goes back to normal, but I doubt it, because AT&T, I don't think they care about comic books, or they care about fandom. And I think Disney is the same way. Disney doesn't care. They're gonna just slash, because it's all up. The bottom line for both Disney and AT&T, two conglomerate, multinational, transnational corporations, is to make money. Make money and spend as little as possible. So what are the cons for working for a corporate comic book company? Well, it's one of them is editorial interference. It's a double-edged sword, right? I know I put that as a pro, but that's only if you're working with a good editor, an editor who understands what you're trying to do, an editor who understands what story you want to tell. They work with you to help you get there. A bad editor is someone who puts their hand in there and tries to change it and bend you to their will. That's editorial interference. They're not doing it to help you. They're just doing it to prove a point to you. They're doing it because they want to feel like they contributed to something, but in reality they're not. They're just making it worse. That's the con, is that sometimes you get bad editors. And I'm not speaking from experience, because I've never worked for a corporate, comic book publishing company. I'm just going by what I've read in interviews. I'm going by what I've read in articles. So this is all based on my own knowledge of what I've studied. The second con is you don't own any of the characters you create. I mean, you could have the credit, but you don't own the characters. You never will own the characters, ever. Like I said, the pro is that you'll get royalties for that creator. If, like for instance, Rob Liefeld, I'm pretty sure he gets royalties for Deadpool to this day, because he created Deadpool. But he doesn't own the character. He can't do anything with the character. It belongs to Disney. Since you're work for hire, you don't have job security unless they offer you like an exclusive deal where you are signed on for 2 or 3 years, guaranteed work. But those guaranteed contracts are gone. So they can fire you whenever they want. They could take you off a book whenever they want. It happened to Tom King, right? Tom King was set to write, I don't even know how many issues of Batman. And I think he had like 20 or so issues left, and they took him off the book. And the reason why I took him off the book was because the book was not selling well. It was losing sales. So that's another con, is that you could be on the book of your dreams, right? Like for instance, I would love to write The Question or Superman. That would be a dream come true for me if I got to write Question as a series, or Superman. And it would devastate me if I was halfway through my storyline and they told me, oh, you know what, Julius, it's not working out. We're going to pull you off the book. That would kill me. I would hate that. That would suck. But I have no control over that because it's not my character. It's theirs. They can do whatever they want. That's a con. So if you want to go down that route, go right ahead. But just remember, you're not in control of anything. You're just a helping hand. That's what you're always going to be for these companies. They can tell you that you're part of the family. They can tell you all that stuff, and that's great. That's good and all. But the moment they don't need you, you're done. You're off. So that's the pros and cons for the working for a corporate comic book company. Now let's take a look at the pros and cons of working for, well, working indie. For indie, the pro is you own all of your IP. Whatever you create, it's yours. You own it. No one else owns it but you. You know, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is the most successful indie IP of all time, in my opinion. It was created by two guys who lived in Maine who decided, hey, let's just have fun with this, you know, with these four turtles dressed like ninjas, and let's see what we do with it. And they created the most successful independent IP of all time that they owned up until a few years ago when they sold it to Nickelodeon or Viacom. So that's a pro going indie. You own all your IP. It's yours. I think currently, just recently, The Chair, published by Alterna Comics, Peter Simeti's comic book company, small comic book company, independent comic book company, was made into movies available for Amazon starring Roddy Piper, the famous WWE wrestler, proving that you don't have to be Marvel or DC to make a movie based on your comic book. It's not mainstream, but it was made into a movie nonetheless. The second pro is you have creative freedom to do what you want and write what you want. You can write whatever you want in your book. So not only do you own your IP, your own intellectual property, you get to write the story however way you wish. And the third pro is you keep all the profits of the proceedings. Any profit that book makes that you created is yours. Unless you promise the artists that work with you back end pay, then you have to pay up. But if you paid up front and you wash your hands of paying your line artist, your penciler, and your inker, and your colorist, and your letterer right off the bat up front, and you make all this money, it's yours. You keep it. But that's a great pro, in my opinion. 3 great pros to going indie. You own your intellectual property. You have creative freedom to write whatever you want, however you want, without anyone telling you can't do this and you can't do that. And you keep all the profits if it makes all the money. That's awesome, right? Now, of course, there's a flip side. Here's the con. The con is all the marketing and promoting falls on you. Some people may disagree with that. Some people may say, no, that's a pro. That's a pro, Julius. But, you know, marketing and promoting is a lot of work. It's a lot of time. And if you don't have a budget for your marketing or your promotions, then you won't get far. If you're not willing to pay for some advertising and some promotion, which is the mistake I made with the Good Old Dragon. I should have put some money to the side and used that as a budget to advertise and promote my campaign. A mistake I won't do again. I'm planning on doing that for book 2 when I launch it in 2021. Another con is you have to put on all sorts of hats: creator, writer, producer, editor, market manager, and publisher. You have to be all those things. Not at once, but you have to put on those hats when you have to put them on. Now, some people can't deal with all that. That's why some writers do hire other people to do that when they get, more, when they get some money coming in. Because, like, for instance, Robert Kirkman was that guy when he first started out. And then when his Walking Dead became successful and he became a TV show and all this money started coming in, he no doubtedly hired people to do all the stuff that he used to do himself, so that way he could primarily focus on writing or other stuff that he wanted to do with this comic book company. So you have to put on a bunch of hats as an indie comic book creator. And that's a con because it takes time away from your creation, like from you creating. Instead of sitting down, hashing out your next story, you have to focus on going on the live stream, doing an interview for a magazine, calling up local comic book shops to pick up your book. So it takes time away from that. That's why I consider it a con. Now, you have to do it. It's necessary for your success. But it takes away the time to write your next book or your next story. Another con is that you have no editors working with you unless you hire one, which I highly recommend that you do. Which is another mistake I made myself when I produced The Ghetto Dragon. I had to edit everything myself, and that took longer for me to do, because I had to get myself out of the subjective mindset of, oh, this is great, this is awesome, and put myself in an objective mind state, thinking, okay, if this was in my stuff, if this book was someone else's, how would I approach it? So it was a process altogether. So I wish I would have hired an editor to look at the Ghetto Dragon script and say, okay, well, here's what works and here's what isn't working. And then perhaps it would have saved me a lot of time. But of course, I would have lost some money. See, there's sacrifices you got to make as an independent creator. You have to be clear-minded. You have to be focused and disciplined, because if you don't have those qualities, you're not going to make it. You got to look at yourself objectively as much as possible in order for you to grow and mature as a writer. The budget to produce your book comes out of your own pocket. That's another con. That means you have to save your own money. My day job, they don't pay me that much. I don't make that much money in my day job. I have to scrape every nickel and dime that I can get and save it. And it takes me a long time to save it. COVID just destroyed all that. So, budget to produce your book comes directly out of your own pocket, unless you crowdfund your campaign and you use that money to fund your book. But I don't like to do that, because I prefer to have a finished product first, so that way the contributors who were gracious enough to contribute to the campaign gets their book right away, gets their product right away. Not have to wait a year to get their book, but wait maybe 3 months or 2 months even. So the cons of going indie is the marketing and promotion falls on you. You have to wear multiple hats as writer, editor, publisher, market manager, and publisher. There's nobody outside yourself, like an editor, who can look over your stuff and tell you, okay, this is not what's working, this is what's working, let's go with this, that kind of thing, because I highly recommend you do that. And the budget comes directly out of your pocket. It puts a damper on things to make sure the Ghetto Dragon gets out. I had to sacrifice a lot. I really have. My poor wife, she wants to go places, she wants to do things, and I always have to tell her I can't do it because I need to save my money to funnel into the project. And God bless her heart, she's stuck by me. So, I love my wife. Thank God I found a woman like my wife who supports me. Love you, babe. 2021 is going to be a good year for indie comics, but it's going to be a bad year for corporate-owned comics, because a bunch of people who relied and depended on those checks, they're going to be gone. And some are going to wither away. Some are going to change careers. But I have a feeling that others are going to go to either Image or Dark Horse Comics and produce their own books there. Or some might actually go down the crowdfunding route and actually do what I'm doing here now. Talking on YouTube, live streaming, going on other live streams, and interacting with you guys. We'll see. But I think 2021 is going to be a good year for indie comics, because there's a lot of good talent out there that's coming up the ranks. I'm one of them. I'm one of those people who want to impress you guys, who wants to entertain you guys. I love to tell stories. So I hope this video was helpful for you. Hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the like button. Leave a comment. Subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell. And I'm going to make more videos like this. Provides insight as to what it's like to live a life as an indie comic book creator, because that's the life I live. And I have a lot more books in the works, and I hope to work with other indie creators to conglomerate and create collectives and help each other out, because that's what the future needs, man. The future needs unification, not divisiveness. I'm a uniter, not a divider. So with that said, guys, this is Julius Freeman signing off. Stay safe, be excellent to each other. Good night and good luck.
Welcome to the Ghetto Dragon, Book 1, No Good Deed, a 60-plus page story about a young man named Matt Guerra, who saves an underage girl from being kidnapped by a heartless, gruesome gang named Los Valientes, who will stop at nothing to protect their street cred. Follow Matt as he pays the consequences of his good deed with his fists, causing Los Valientes to turn their sights on his family. Does our hero back down, or does he stand his ground? Join us in this martial arts adventure that involves action, drama, a little romance, and tragedy. Follow Julius Freeman on Twitter and Facebook for the latest updates. Also, check out his YouTube channel and subscribe where you can join him in exploring the rich history behind the creation of the Ghetto Dragon. Help make it happen for the Ghetto Dragon Book 1, No Good Deed. You won't regret it.